What is a deficit? When I say deficit, it's an occurrence of neurobiological malfunctioning with developmental roots. It's an issue of capacity rather than will. So, for example, let's say there's a guy who has betrayed his wife. She gets very, very triggered. And in her trigger, she is recounting to him his many betrayals against her. And he collapses into shame, and she's saying, can't you say something? Say something, say something. But he, in that collapse, he can't in the moment. He can grow that capacity, and he's responsible to do so. There are tools and skills he can use to grow that capacity and face that situation. But there might actually be literally in the structures of his brain a malfunctioning or an immaturity. And I mean that in a very literal way, like maybe a part of the brain was not able to develop and mature fully, that puts a limit on his ability to upregulate out of a shame-based collapse. Okay, that would be an example of a deficit. A defense, on the other hand, is an expression of personality function and ego structure, an unconscious strategy to protect one's sense of self. So with the defense, I am merely like trying to avoid taking on a reality that would disturb my sense of self, my sense of who I am, my place in the world, right? And so I deny, or I defend, or I go into black and white thinking, or whatever it is. And there's so many examples of defense mechanisms. But here it's not an issue of capacity. Here you could do something differently. The capacity is there, but you're not doing it, maybe non-consciously, you're not doing it in order to defend against something that is threatening to your sense of self, your ego. I don't mean ego as in puffed up. I mean that in the purely clinical psychological sense, right? So another way to think of it, a defense is a software issue versus a deficit, which is a hardware issue. A deficit is about the hardware working, the actual parts of the computer. Does the computer itself have the capacity to complete this function or that function? And then the defense is about the software that's installed. How do you do this? How have you learned to accomplish this, do this, relate in this way, navigate this circumstance, etc.?